PC Amateur Guy here with another video. Uh, just talking about uh, basically beginners' mistakes. Um, so if you're learning how to build a PC for the first time, and you know it's probably gonna take you like 10 hours to build your very first PC, for example. And so I built probably over a dozen PCs already. Um, and Today I want to share some tips and tricks how you can save time and shave that down to like maybe an hour. And um, let's get started. Okay, so I'm just gonna use this case as an example because this is the one I'm using right now, but I have many cases, like probably 5 or 6 in the garage right now, because I like building and I like switching up cases. So let's let's talk about some common mistakes that can happen. The first thing is um, when you're picking the motherboard, you have the option to pick an ITX case, a micro, and an ATX case. And One thing that I'm going to mention is that if you really like building and you're thinking of building for a future build, or you're going to change your case, I like personally to always pick a mini ITX, which is like 6.7 inches by 6.7 inches. So this is 6.7 inches by 6.7 inch. The reason why I like the mini ITX motherboards, because even if I'm building in a big case, like even if it's an ATX case, EATX case, I can actually fit that in a big case, right? And I've done that actually. I have one in my living room. It's in a bigger case, and it's perfectly fine. Okay, and if I ever decide to change that to a mini ITX, like this height Revolve 3, I can take that motherboard and put it into this case. So, uh, tip number one, you want to pick probably the smallest motherboard that you can afford, that you like, and you think you're gonna probably maybe upgrade on it in the future, like changing it from a 5800X to a 5800X 3D CPU, for example. Even when the 12th gen Intel came out, it went all the way to the 14th. So if you're in the 12th gen, you may want to upgrade to a 14th gen. So you want to get a mini ITX, because that way you can fit it in any case if you change your mind. Another thing you want to consider is the 750 power supply, meaning you want to have enough. And I mean, you don't need 1500 watts to be honest, but like I find honestly around 600 watts, 650 watts is actually enough. But more is not always bad idea. So if you can get a 750 or 850 or even 1,000 watts, you're fine. So get 1,000 watts, and that's perfectly fine. Um, Another thing is the graphics card. Um, Let me just take this cover off. So graphics cards. This is a 3-slot card. So another a beginner mistake is when you buy a card that's too big, and it may not fit. So this is a 300 centimeters. In most cases, like 300 centimeters is probably the sweet spot. So anything below 300 centimeters, you can fit in most cases, even the mini ITX cases with a small footprint. So I just want to you be mindful of that. I would not get like a graphics card with an AIO built in. Don't get me wrong. I feel like those graphics cards are actually really good, but it's hard to like resell because a lot of cases can't fit your graphics card with an AIO, and if you're shifting cases, it's also harder to move that graphics card to another case with an AIO. For example, this one would not fit if it had an AIO attached to it. So the point is, make sure your graphics card fits the case, before actually buying it. And another thing, like a lot of times you have your eyeball on like a certain case, then you decide you change to a different case, and then you buy this really large graphics card, and it end up doesn't fit, and then you have to return, you know, that either the case or the graphics card, and then some places, it doesn't really let you, restocking fee or whatever, and if you're buying from eBay, it's a pain in the ass to return it, so something to be mindful of. Right, and another thing, for if you're building a PC as a beginner, I wouldn't do an AIO. I would do an air cooler, like a Noctua air cooler, and try to get one that fits your case. Make sure the the air cooler fits your case, because a lot of cases the AIO doesn't fit, and so you don't want to, if you're beginning, you don't want to get an AIO because it's really hard to change the case or maneuver the motherboard and so on. So I would stick with an air cooler because it's just easier to install. And the last thing you want to do is when you have your motherboard put in and stuff, and then you put in the SSD and stuff, you just want to make sure you have Windows installed in the motherboard first. So if you have like a testing PC or whatever, what have you, then you have the RAM already built in, and so it already works. So when you install the motherboard with the SSD or NVMe along with the RAM, then everything works. But just keep in mind that the RAM specs are also important. Meaning, like, if your RAM, just check the motherboard specs. So if the motherboard spec says, like, for example, DDR5 supports 6,000 megahertz, and then you're buying like a DDR5 used market for 4,800 megahertz, that may not be compatible with the newer motherboards because it's not it's optimized at 600 megahertz, and it may even not even be backward compatible because that DDR5 is too old for the system and it's not tested for it. So you can check the motherboard website to make sure that RAM is supported. But the point is that a lot of people just think like DDR5, I'll just get a DDR5 stick and it's going to be compatible. And they don't realize that putting in that DDR5 and then realizing that the computer starts crashing a lot. I find the number one reason for crashing PCs is because the RAM is not compatible. So make sure the RAM that you're buying is compatible to your motherboard, and make sure it's pushed in, because once I had the PC turned on and it was actually crashing a little bit, and actually the RAM sticks wasn't actually tied in, so make sure it clicks. So that's another thing like a beginner would make a mistake on. So yeah, so I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.